We're here in Kfar Aza with Governor Mike Huckabee. Shalom.
Shalom.
This is your first time here. You heard the news, you saw the videos, but being here is totally different.
It's worse than I could have imagined. And the unimaginable horror that these people have been through, no human being should ever be subjected to the level of atrocity and savagery that the people of Israel have experienced. And I want the whole world to understand what happened here and who did it. And let's not pretend that there are two sides, because there aren't. There's a side of good and there's a side of evil. What happened to the Jewish people here was evil, and there's no other explanation for it.
And it seemed at the beginning that the whole world was with us the day after.
Yeah.
But then a day passed and it's getting more challenging for Israel.
And it shouldn't be. We need to make sure that people understand there's still hostages in Gaza from 25 nations, including the United States. Hamas didn't take those hostages because they were trying to do some humanitarian effort. They did them as bargaining chips so that they can try to buy themselves more time. I want every one of those hostages to be able to come home to their families. But I want Israel to have the full support of the world to fully prosecute this war, to eradicate these animals who did this to completely innocent people.
Now, you mentioned innocent, and one of the things that was emphasized today is the fact that there was a second wave of so-called citizens of Gaza. Tell us about that and how you thought about that.
People need to remember, and innocent lives are being lost in Gaza. We understand that. But they're being lost not because of Israel, but because Hamas created an extraordinary level of absolute chaos. And the other reason is that we need to remember that the people in Gaza voted to put Hamas in power. What happened with Hamas is largely due to the vote of people. It was Barack Obama who once said, elections have consequences, and they sure do. And I'm looking at the consequences of an election where Hamas was elected to lead Gaza, which could be one of the most wonderful resorts on earth. And it is a hellhole because they took every dime that was given to them for their people. And they built tunnels, and they built bombs, and they bought bullets. Not to help their people, but to kill other people they didn't even know.
And when we're talking about the second wave, we're talking about Gazans who came in, not affiliated with Hamas, and looted while people were being murdered next to them.
Not only were they looting with bodies strewn about, and they were going in and taking food and items from the homes of people whose bodies were laying before them. They had to step over them in order to loot the homes. What kind of person does that?
Now, when we're talking about the U.S.-Israel relations, it began with very powerful statements from President Biden, and there's still support that we're feeling today, but there is a feeling that the pressure is beginning. How do you see the U.S. policy towards what's going on today?
Well, I hope the policy continues to be unequivocal support for Israel. We don't need to tell Israel how to prosecute this war. They're the only ones who need to make that decision. I don't think we would have enjoyed having other countries dictate to us on December the 8th of 1941 how we should deal with the Japanese right after Pearl Harbor. And this is no time for anyone to be giving Israel some instructions or lessons on what they should do. They're in a fight for their lives. They're not just fighting. This is not a revenge war. This is a war to prevent what we're looking at in this place from happening again. And Israel not only has a right, Israel has a responsibility that this never happens again. And that's why I hope the world comes together and says, we stand with Israel.
As a true friend of Israel, how have you been coping with these days, seeing it from far, now seeing it from close?
You know, it's tough. One of my friends here, her 22-year-old niece was murdered on the first day. That's a young life that had all of its hope and promise, and we're hearing these stories. On the plane coming in, a couple recognized me, and they came over, they gave me a dog tag to represent their son who has been held hostage. They haven't heard or seen from him in 75 days. I went in Tel Aviv to the hostage village. I found his poster. I took a picture with it and sent it to the parents and said, I'll be praying for your son every day to come home to you. It's real, it's personal, and families across the world have been ripped apart by the heinous activities of Hamas. And we just don't need to somehow begin to get used to this. I pray to God we never get used to something like this.
Governor Huckabee, thank you very much.
Thank you.